Thank you for listening to Disruptive Adventism. We just wanted to let you know that today's episode has a lot of background noise. We try to keep it as silent as possible, but the venue that we were recording was just very noisy. So we did our best. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy it. It was April 21st, 2008. I was 12 years old, and I wanted to commit my life to Christ. It was a joyful time. I'm pretty sure you can remember the time that you got baptized, the day you became a Christian. But what if you were born with that name, and you were not? What would you say?
Well, my name is Christian, and I was an atheist, and when people would ask me, oh, are you a Christian? I would tell them, absolutely not. Anyone who believes in the Bible is a fool, and I have nothing to do with Christianity. I had nothing to do with it at all.
So the question then becomes, how did Christian became Christian?
So I started to see people that I could tell had joy in their life. I could tell they actually knew what they believed. They didn't just use God as an excuse not to do anything for themselves. And so I kind of hoped that it was real, but I didn't think I could intellectually trust it. And so I started Bible studies with the purpose of disproving it, kind of hoping I could believe it. And so for the first time, once I started those studies, I saw there was finally real answers, and it started to change my life.
Real answers? To which questions exactly, you may be thinking? Well, Christian started a prophecy seminar, which is one of the main things that attracts people to the church. But as he was going through it, this was his experience.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I was going through prophecy and seeing how I could actually trust the Bible, especially with the prophecy like Daniel 9 and Daniel 2 and seeing the whole layout. And the idea that Christ died for us just seemed like complete foolishness. And so coming into that and seeing the validity of it, then it finally hit me that, wow, this is actually a real thing. So while I was getting real answers for the first time, at the same time, I used to be a professional tree trimmer before I was a pastor. And so at the same time I was studying the Bible, I should have died multiple times right as soon as I started studying. And so I saw God sparing my life at the same time I was studying. And so it just started to fully change my perspective.
As Christian continued to study through the prophecy seminars and started to see the Bible, other things are happening in his life. We're going to get to a little bit more of that story after the break. But before the break, I want to share with you what was Christian's favorite part of the Bible. It was not just prophecy, but something else that kept him engaged and that kept him looking for the answers that he was seeking.
So, I mean, the Bible, I love the stories because they're very real. They don't show us, all perfection necessarily. It shows people going through real situations. And I think it's important that we're real with people and that, somebody, whatever they might be struggling with, I think there's certain things that stay between us and God, but there's things that we can be very real about and to show, especially how God has moved someone from that. Because I think that there are a lot of people that struggle with similar things, and the thing is, we have the answers through the Bible of how to move forward in that. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. It might be a process. I struggled with depression for a long time, and it didn't go overnight. It took some time. It took, process of friends and prayer and things like that. And so it's important to show that we're real. We're not just some facade. We're not putting on a show, and showing how our experience with God has moved us forward in that.
Definitely agree with Christian right there. We have to keep it real. And after the break, we get to hear a real experience from him and what kind of led him through this path of conversion. Thank you for listening to Disruptive Adventism. We'll be right back. You have an idea. You want to tell it to the world, but you don't know where to start. That's where Anchor comes in. They have the tools for you to edit, produce, and record your idea right from your phone or computer. It's the easiest way to reach and grow your audience. They publish for you to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms. And to top it all off, they match you with advertisers so you can earn from your passion and your wonderful idea. So tell me, what are you waiting for? Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and follow your dream. We continue with more Disruptive Adventism. Thank you for listening. Today we are talking with Christian Smith, a former atheist who is now a Christian, and he's also a YouTuber. We'll get to that part in a little bit, but before, we're going to keep it real as we promised. We're going to have a story by Christian of what was his life before and what were some of his major struggles that kept him in depression for the longest time. Here's Christian with a story.
Yeah, so my brother and I were in forced labor from 3-4 on. So we were trained by my dad to work, 15-hour days at times. And I ended up working with the business actually all the way through 18, 19. But it was quite intense. One of the hardest parts was when I was a younger teen. My brother ran away from home, and we actually the place we lived at, we had no electricity. We lived in a trailer that we paid $1 for, so you can imagine how extravagant that was. And so to get ready, I would have to walk half a mile, get buckets of water, bring them back, heat it up to shower just before we got to work. And then I was building our septic system at 12, 13 with a shovel. So you would wake up, dig a giant hole by yourself, go to bed, do the same thing again the next day. And there were many times I wanted to take my life. The only reason I didn't was I didn't want to abandon the people around me. So kind of with that background, when I started going to a community college and I started asking questions of, does God exist? Can we trust the Bible? I never got any good answers. And when I started looking at evolution and quantum physics, it made more sense at the time. And so for me, it was a combination of background of what happened in my childhood, of wondering how could these things happen if God exists, as well as the level of knowledge I was able to acquire at the time.
As you listen to Christian, you may realize that he had a different childhood than you had, definitely a different childhood than I had. And that may change the perspective and the questions that one asks. After talking for a couple of minutes with him, we kind of came to the realization that was one of the things that kept him asking questions and asking about the character of God. Therefore, he shared with me what's one of the things that he wants us to do when we approach people that, may be proclaimed atheist or, our perspective upon them.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, prophecy and seeing people's experience, those two things are what changed my life, of seeing how it's a real thing that we can have and how we can intellectually trust it as well. And so, a lot of times we put off atheists as though, they're just crazy or whatever, but there are a lot that are just seeking answers, and the best answers that they have right now have them where they're at. And so that's where I was at. Someone took the time to study the Bible with me, and now I'm pastoring. My life would never be the same.
I hope you caught that. Christian said that someone took the time to study the Bible with them. I wonder how many of us are doing that on a consistent basis. Maybe we do it from time to time, but how many of us are seeking those who are seeking? As life went on, Christian went to study theology. He graduated from Andrews, and he's now pastoring a district. But he is also doing a YouTube channel. I asked him if he thinks that there are enough Adventist YouTubers and what are some of the challenges that are keeping people from starting their own YouTube channel and sharing their story. And he replied this.
Not at all. I think we need more, as many as can join, because it's the biggest platform really that exists. And it has, there's not a single TV show, there's not a single news channel that has more views than what YouTube gets. Okay. And I think we need a bigger presence. And also probably one of the biggest hurdles for me that I just recently kind of figured out is figuring out what my channel is about, because especially starting out, you go to the channel and there's videos on all kinds of different things, and it's not going to do much if you're just kind of talking about different topics constantly. And so it's really important to find what your niche is and focus in on that. So for me, that's been hard to wrestle with, of what is my focus with this channel.
After the break, we get to hear Christian's focus and what he's doing to help others find Christ. Thank you for listening to Disruptive Adventism. See you in just a little bit. This podcast is brought to you by our supporters on patreon.com and coffee.com. Our supporters are the backbone of the podcast, and we are very thankful for all of you. Your contributions allow us to seek the best ideas and disruptors in the world and bring you podcasts that energize, transform, and change your community. We hope you take courage and join our one-time contributors through coffee.com or our monthly ones on patreon.com. You'll get amazing merch and early access to our unedited interviews and produced podcasts. If you want to contribute, hit the links in the description below. And thank you. It's time for the final section of Disruptive Adventism today. Thank you for listening. Just want to remind you that you can get the unedited version of this podcast on patreon.com/Disruptive Adventism. You can just find the link below. So, as we've been talking about atheism, YouTube, becoming Christian, I asked Christian what is his YouTube channel about, and what about quality? Is it important, and how can we get better?
Yeah, well, honestly, it was a long process. Originally, because I was former an atheist, and so when I came into the church, I had I saw a need for evangelism and for reaching out, and so I started out just doing trainings in churches, and then I was realizing to expand that, video was a good way of doing that. And then it just completely changed into a channel. As I saw the platform, as I saw the need, I decided to completely change things in the direction that I was going and just start a channel. And I also just have a passion for filmmaking. I've really enjoyed it myself. And I think quality is incredibly important. Now, at the end of the day, story is the most important. Content is king because, there are videos out there that have gone viral that the visuals are really not that great. But at the same time, it makes a huge difference when you can pick up on that. So story, qualitative a story, I think, is first and foremost. And just continuing to grow and try to bring up the quality. I think we should have some of the best videographers and YouTubers and with the span that we have and with the message that we have. I know for my channel, I'm trying to move towards more of like a Peter McKinnon style video, which he does video. That's what he does. But with the message of the Adventist Church. And so I think we can branch out of how we film.
So if you decide to go to YouTube and find Christian, now you know what his channel is about. Hopefully you can give him some feedback and critique if he's living up to his expectations. And if not, he's still learning, as he's about to tell us in his final word. Thank you for listening today to Disruptive Adventism. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next one. Here is Christian with the final word.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the time that we live in because, like I said, we have a message that is ready to change lives. I wouldn't be alive without it. And so if God lays it on your heart to do a channel or whatever the case is, you can start with your phone. Any platform, whether it's, podcasts are huge right now, YouTube, video, whatever it is, I think just getting involved it's not only a blessing for others, but it will have an impact on your life too. And I haven't gone to film school or anything. Everything I've learned is off of YouTube. And so I've had I have a lot to learn, but I've had a number of people asking me questions on, how do you do this? How do you do that? I just learned on YouTube. So it's free. You can just search and figure out how to expand your filming skills and just get started and see where God takes you with it.